Welcome back. This is day 10 of our 12 days through the book of Numbers, and I hope that you're enjoying the book of Numbers as we read through it together. Today we did Numbers chapters 28 to 30. A lot of kind of detailed laws in today's reading, but an interesting section on vows and vow making and being bound by vows you make or released from vows you've made. And that's what I want to comment on this morning. So here we read a law that God said, if a girl living in her home under the authority of her father, if she were to speak rashly with her mouth and make a vow, I swear I will do this. I swear by Yahweh, by God, I will do this thing. If her father, when hearing that, knew it was a rash vow and that it would only be harmful to her, he could overrule that vow and she would be released from it. And that probably also applied to contractual agreements between Israelites. They would vow by God to do something, make a covenant with one another, make a compact together. And the father had the authority to, on the day that she did it, to annul that contractual agreement. Now, whether or not this means, when a husband then married a wife, the husband could do the same for his wife. He could annul her vows on the day that she made them. Now, why make this provision for women in particular? Because men did not have that luxury. If a man made a vow, he was bound by it. Does it mean that women are more prone to speak rashly than men? That is the question. And if I'm going to be honest, I think there is some truth in that. When I look at my kids, for example, I know that teenage girls can be very sharp and cutting with their tongues and can speak rashly, whereas boys are not as verbal. Boys are more likely to do something stupid. I've got a teenage boy as well. But having said that, as I look into the Bible, I see actually it was only examples of men that I can think of that made rash vows, like Jephthah, who made the vow that he would sacrifice whatever came out of his house if God gave him victory in a battle, and the first thing to come out of his house was his daughter. There's a group of guys in the book of Acts that all vow that they won't eat or drink until they've killed Paul the Apostle. And of course, Paul the Apostle got rescued by the Roman leader and got sent off to Caesarea, I think it was. And I often wonder, what happened to those guys who vowed they'd never eat or drink till they ate? I'm sure at some point they made some excuse as to why they could break their vow. So I don't have the answers to all this, but one thing I do know, God takes the words that we speak seriously. The commitments that you make, the things that you vow, the things that you give yourself to, He takes them seriously because God is a God of faithfulness. Part of His nature is faithfulness. And so to Him, to break one's word is a serious matter. In fact, it had got so bad in the times of Jesus that the Jews were, I swear by this, I swear by that. Everything they said was, I swear by the temple, I swear by the sacrifice on the altar, I swear by the altar, I swear by the gold in the temple, I swear. They were just swearing by, and their words didn't mean anything anymore. It was just rash. It was just a manner of speaking. And Jesus rebuked them. He said, you people swear all these things, but God takes your word seriously. So Jesus said, just let your yes be yes and your no be no. For anything more than that is sin. Why is it sin? Because you are swearing by God and by all these things, and God is listening to all of these vows, and you're breaking them all. You quite freely go against your word. So what can we take out of this for today? Because here's the point. God does take our words seriously. He takes the commitments that we make seriously. In my early days as a Christian, I made a vow to not do a certain thing because I knew it was bordering on sinful, definitely foolish. And through the years, 20 years now that I've lived under this oath, I have flip-flopped back and forth. I've sometimes allowed myself some liberty in it. I've said, no, it's a season of grace. But I've never, ever managed to free myself from that oath, and I've always come back to repenting and stopping doing it. And now as I sit here, it's been about a year since the last time I allowed myself a little bit of grace, and I still am under a tremendous conviction that I must be faithful to that vow, and as God gives me strength, I will be now for the rest of my life. But, don't swear rashly. Don't make commitments rashly. God is listening to what you say, and He will hold you to your commitments. Now, there is good news in all of this, because there are commitments that we make in life that we should not have made. And is there hope? Well, I find hope in the verses that we read this morning that said a husband of a wife can annul the oath of a wife in the day she makes it if he knows it's rash and it's going to be harmful. Because the Bible says that we as Christians, as the church, are the bride of Christ. And so there may have been commitments that you have made in your life that you are unable to fulfill, or that have become a tremendous burden to you and to your conscience because you actually can't fulfill it. Well, if that is the case, I want you to know today, my friend, that Jesus has the power and authority as your husband to annul that oath. And you can come to God and you can say, Father, I'm sorry I swore that thing with my lips. It's been a curse and a burden to me, and I don't want to live under it anymore. It's not sinful if I don't hold to that oath. It's not a sinful act. It's just the oath I took that is rash. And I'm asking you please to release me. And He has the authority to do that. Now, I'm not saying He will every time, because some oaths are good, some oaths are not. The husband had, in the verses we read this morning, he had the discretion to either annul it or not. And God still has that discretion. But there is this room for grace that Jesus can annul an oath that you've taken that is actually not good and should not be binding on you. And how do you work out if that's the case or not? Well, you've just got to take it to the Lord. You've got to go with your conscience. You have to, through your own relationship with God, make that decision, and then seek the counsel of those you trust. Pray with others about it. And don't be afraid to bring others in and work through the issue with them. Why do I know that there are people out there that will relate to what I'm saying? Because it seems like a strange thing, but it's built into human nature. We want to make oaths. We want to make commitments. Now, let me just finish by talking about one oath that God will not release you from. And this is for those of you who are Christians, who've been baptized as believers. That, my friend, is an oath that God will not release you of. When you were baptized, you made a solemn vow that you would live for God, that you would serve Jesus, that you would live holy, and that you would turn your back on the devil and turn your back on the world, and that you will follow Jesus as your Lord. And every time you take communion, you are renewing that vow, and you are asking for forgiveness for having not kept that vow perfectly. But that is a vow that your Father will continue to hold you to. But in holding to that vow, there is great blessing. Now, if you want to learn more about that vow that we take in baptism as a Christian, I want to strongly encourage you to register for, or to go and complete, probably the best course I've ever developed. And I've developed a lot of stuff in my life. There should be a little thumbnail on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Up here now, it's called 5 Foundations. It's a 5-part session. The 3rd session is on baptism, but I really encourage you to do the whole course. It's amazing. If you're watching on Facebook or one of the other social media, I'll put the post in the link below. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.